Welcome back to Before the Whistle. Topic of discussion for the day, the national championship, Alabama versus Clemson.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think this is going to be a toss-up game, but the question is can Clemson overcome Alabama's defense?
I think that's one thing that you have to look at because Alabama's offense has been really explosive, but you have to look at the defensive side of the ball for Alabama. They've got Jonathan Allen, Tim Williams, Minka Fitzpatrick. They've got explosive players all over the field that can just make plays constantly.
To me, it's all going to come down to Deshaun Watson. Can he make the big plays, get the ball out to Mike Williams, Deion Kane? He's going to have to spread the ball around and run the ball well, too.
I think it's all about Clemson's offense. I mean, Deshaun Watson proved last year that he can play against Alabama. So, I mean, it's all going to be about can his receivers make those catches? Because you saw Washington, John Ross had no answer for their secondary.
He can do anything.
Well, and then you see Deshaun Watson's first pass against Ohio State. Yeah, the receiver slipped, but either way, that's probably an interception. The corner was in front of him. It was just a bad pass.
I was really impressed with Clemson against Ohio State. On both sides of the ball, on offense, they spread the ball out really well, and they played good in every position of the ball. They had Deshaun Watson had 250 yards. They had a lot of yards from running the ball, a lot of receiving yards, and their defense shut out Ohio State, which is a pretty good offense.
Yeah, I think one of the big factors is if Deshaun Watson can maintain the ball. He can't be fumbling, throwing interceptions, and also, like Leighton said, Deion Kane is actually out this week for the championship. He's suspended, so I think that's really going to impact.
Yeah, Clemson's going to have to be near perfect on offense to really have a chance in this game.
I think the big thing is we saw last week Washington did actually have a few good offensive series against Alabama, and what they did was they changed up their the
Tempo
packages they had out there. Did. And I mean, Clemson's just going to have to give them a wide variety of plays.
Clemson can't just go with the 6-7 plays. They have to expand and they have to really just make sure they keep Alabama on their toes.
Also, we know what we're going to get from these two defenses.
Exactly.
And then on the Alabama's offensive side, you've got some young guys in there. People say Bo Scarborough and Damian Harris aren't as good as backs that they have had, but their offensive line still is as good as it's ever been. They've still got huge guys there that can really get the job done.
Yeah, and like you said about Clemson's defense, when they play Ohio State, you can say they contain J.T. Barrett, they contain Mike Weber, and they contain Curtis Samuel. But then you got to look at Alabama's offense. Jalen Hurts, better quarterback than J.T. Barrett. Then you look at Bo Scarborough and Damian Harris, better running backs than Mike Weber. And just look at all the receivers. You got Ardarius Stewart, O.J. Howard, Calvin Ridley. You just have weapons all across the field.
I think Clemson is probably the best team that Alabama's going to play this year, just because of size. I think they're one of the only teams that can match Alabama's athletes.
Yeah, they do match really well. I'll give Clemson that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But they can't try the chippy stuff they've been trying all year. The dirty grabs and stuff against Alabama.
Yeah, they're just going to have to. This is going to be an NFL style game for Clemson. They're going to have to run the ball, be okay with getting 3 or 4 yards to carry, and they're just going to have to keep.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw Washington with Gaskin and
Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman. They were having to run the ball, and I mean they were getting 2-3 yards to carry, but eventually they started getting when they got those offensive series going, they were getting 6 and 7 yards.
If you notice in the Alabama game versus Washington, whenever Washington ran 2 safeties, literally Alabama was just shoving it down their throat. They were running the ball constantly, not really passing. So if Clemson goes and watches tape, they need to learn they can't have 2 safeties because Alabama will just run the ball all day long on them.
Yeah, let's compare the two offenses of the teams in their semifinal games. Alabama against a weaker Washington defense, they struggled a little bit. They still put 24 points up on the board, but they showed a lot of signs of struggling during that game. And then Clemson, you got Deshaun Watson, he had 2 picks, but he still had a lot of yards, and they still had a ton of offensive success against a better Ohio State defense.
But here's the thing, those 2 picks against Alabama, they're probably both scores.
I don't know if they're probably both scores.
I wouldn't say that Washington's defense is weak. Their strength was just in the secondary.
They're weaker than Ohio State's.
And then I'd also like to say,
West Coast defenses are never as strong as they are.
Well, their strength was in the schools. They have an All-American at safety, and I mean their secondary is really good this year. I mean they just didn't have the front 7 to line up with Alabama. They just didn't have it.
Yeah, they just don't match up in the trenches.
And also, I'd like to say that Matt was talking about Clemson's defense shutting out Ohio State. Alabama went up against a better quarterback in Jake Browning, and he only scored once.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they only scored 24, but Jake Browning's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. They only let him score once.
I think looking at the Alabama game especially, you look and you think that Alabama only scored 24 points. They didn't play good, but you have to realize that they still do have a freshman quarterback at Jalen Hurts. He's gonna make mistakes. He's a young quarterback.
He's had a lot of ball security problems.
If he can control the ball, I think this is gonna be an easy win for Alabama.
It's not gonna be an easy win.
I think
this is a toss-up game.
I think this is. We saw that you can't last week against Washington. We saw that you can't shut down their passing game and expect to stop their run. So Clemson's going to have to focus on shutting down Bo Scarborough, Damian Harris, and they're going to have to contain Jalen Hurts and make him throw the ball.
Deshaun Watson has to have a perfect game for them to beat Alabama. He can't have the silly passes, the bad passes, the interceptions. You just can't. They will lose if he has one interception.
They can't have any turnovers.
He has to have a near perfect game.
Yeah, so I give Clemson a lot of credit on both sides of the ball. But I just think it's going to come down to it in the fourth quarter. Alabama's going to pull out with the victory.
I think that it all comes down to the quarterbacks. Whichever one can keep the ball better and not throw turnovers. If Clemson can hold Alabama's run game and force Jalen Hurts to pass, I think Clemson has a better chance of winning. But I've still got Alabama in this one. I could see this actually being a high-scoring game.
Much like last year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a back-and-forth scoring, but I do think there will be a lot of defense involved. But I still think Alabama's going to win.
Yeah, I agree with Dawson. I think it's pretty much going to come down to the two quarterbacks. Who can take better control of the ball and not turn it over?
Well, Deshaun Watson is obviously the better quarterback.
He didn't show that in the semifinal games, though.
I think
he had 259 yards.
He had 2 interceptions.
Deshaun Watson's proved that he can play, so I'm confident in Deshaun Watson. I think the story of this game is going to be Wayne Gallman coming out of the backfield, because we saw Gaskin kind of hurt Alabama coming out of the backfield catching passes, and Jordan Leggett at tight end is going to be a big weapon for Deshaun Watson. So I'm gonna go with Clemson on this.
Yeah,
one.
you think it'd be the safe bet to bet on Deshaun Watson, but I just got to go the other way with Alabama.
Well, and also Alabama was kind of more worried with Jake Browning passing the ball against Washington.
Yeah,
I think they're going to really clamp
threat.
down on Deshaun Watson and Gallman this week.
All right, yeah, so that's going to wrap